Brayan Bello is an ace. This has now been proven as he once again had a really strong start on Friday night to help get the Red Sox the win in the first game against the White Sox as he went 6 2/3 strong innings with just one run given up.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Locked On Red Sox podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every day. I am your host, Gabby Hurlbut, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast, here to bring you another episode of the show on this fine Monday morning. Definitely a frustrating weekend series for the Red Sox. Just not a lot of offense portrayed and just a lot of frustrating little things that happened as well. We'll definitely dive into all of that on today's episode, as well as talk about a bright spot for the team over the 3-game series this weekend, which is Brayan Bello and what makes him as strong of a pitcher as he is. I'll also be touching a little bit on David Hamilton and our reactions to him and how he's looked so far in his first few games with the Red Sox. So Brayan Bello is absolutely at this point an ace. It's really exciting for me to say that because Brayan Bello, we've watched develop with the Red Sox. We've watched him work his way up to being a major league pitcher, and he really has shown improvement with every start. He was injured earlier this season, came on board in the starting rotation, and has really been a serious asset to the rotation. He, to me, is a pitcher that you want to see on the mound every 5 days. You feel good. You're in a good mood with that mindset, knowing that it's a Bello start day. What used to be sale day is now kind of becoming Bello day in terms of the excitement level that comes with his starts. He's still so young, so he still has so much more time to develop. But what we've seen from him already this season has been really exciting. I mean, as frustrating as the weekend series was against the White Sox, he had another really strong start on Friday night, only giving up one run over 6 2/3 innings pitched. And he really did save the Red Sox that night because they didn't produce a lot of offense in the game. I mean, they really only had 4 hits and they struck out 17 times. Devers hit a big 2-run home run. That was really the extent of a lot of the offense for the Red Sox. But in general, they really were not producing a lot of runs that night. So they needed a start from him like they had. And so it was really, really cool to see him really be able to put the team on his back like he's done many times this season with just the one run giving up. In his last 15 games, he has a 327 earned run average with 38 strikeouts and 24 runs given up. In his last 7 games, that's gone down to a 2.32 ERA with 11 earned runs given up and 62 strikeouts. So that storyline to me is important because it really alludes to just that growth and improvement that we've seen from him a lot lately, in terms of the fact that we as a fan base are looking back on his starts from where he started the season to now and just realizing the growth that he's developed. He looks a lot more confident on the mound and he's composed and he knows what types of pitches he should be throwing in given situations. And he's been able to pitch around base runners super well and super effectively. And he's able to adjust when he has runners on base, which is super impressive for somebody at his experience level. And just the fact that emotion wise, everybody gets excited to see him pitch and words buzzing about how good of a pitcher he is and how lucky we are to have him, to me, makes you an ace caliber pitcher because the Red Sox really don't have a lot of that right now. And one of the biggest themes going into this season from a pitching standpoint was that they didn't have a true ace to be at the top of that rotation. And as long as Bello continues on this trajectory, he absolutely is that guy that I'm looking at as the number one that we can really rely on to pitch consistently well. And the Red Sox starting rotation needs that because, obviously other pitchers have been throwing pretty well, like Paxton and Whitlock, but the fact that they didn't have a true number one to start the season was cause for concern. So Bello being able to seamlessly fit into that role from what we've seen so far is just tremendous and exciting to me. And it also is cool because it alludes to just what they're really trying to do right now in terms of developing players within their own system, because we've watched Bello make his way up and work his way up within the Red Sox organization. To see him excelling where he's at now at this level and being able to really compete when he's out there and limit the damage from other teams is super exciting to have. So as a Red Sox fan, I'm looking at the Bello situation as a really, really strong plus for the team right now. And despite the aggravations that can come with a series loss against a team like the White Sox, it's really encouraging to know that you have somebody like Bello at the top of the rotation, because it's hard to not trust in him. And for me personally, I know that when he takes the mound, you can feel confident that he's going to manage the runs the other team is scoring. So it's really up to the Red Sox offense to back him up on that, which they didn't do the most effectively on Friday night when he was pitching, but they did do enough where he was able to record the win and get his 5th win of the season because he had such a strong outing. And also the fact that he's been going deeper into games too. I mean, he's pitched 7 full innings in 2 of his last 5 starts and at least 6 innings in the other ones. So that's fantastic, because longevity from starters can be hard to find when they're still new in their career and they're developing. And being able to trust that you can get a lot of innings and a lot of pitches from him is great for the bullpen, and being able to rest the bullpen for the rest of that series. So from a longevity standpoint, he's a true reliable starter. And that to me is really what defines an ace. Somebody who can hit the mound every 5 days and you can feel really confident and excited with pitching and know that the majority of the time he's going to get you 6 to 7 strong innings. And that is why he also should be an all-star. He's done everything to deserve that all-star recognition this season, and it would be silly for him to not be considered and not be a name that ends up going to the game, because he just has so much talent and he's been super fun to watch. And the growth, especially just throughout the season alone, this season has been enough for me to feel like he is an ace already at this point. And every 5 days when it's a Bello day, we need to implement hashtag Bello Day on Twitter. I know I can definitely start a hashtag Bello Day, but I'm hoping Red Sox Nation can get behind that hashtag when he does start, because his confidence really has skyrocketed. And I'm super excited to have him, and I'm super excited for what he can do moving forward with this team, because we need somebody like him. We need a starter like him. Coming up, I'm going to be talking about David Hamilton and reacting to what we've seen from him in his first few games with the Red Sox, and maybe what to expect going forward, because he's been fun to watch so far when he's been playing in these first few games. So I'm going to be touching on all of that next. But first, for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit, or get your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Let me tell you, eBay Motors is a lifesaver for somebody like me who really is not super knowledgeable about cars. So to be able to have that as my go-to, to guarantee that they'll be able to fix what's going on with my car, get me the right accessories to make sure that it's riding well enough, is a good thing for somebody like me. So if you are anything like me and you struggle with car related problems, definitely head to ebaymotors.com because they absolutely could save your life. David Hamilton is awesome so far for the Red Sox. And I say awesome because he's displaying versatility on the field and he's been able to do quite a few different things. For example, and the most obvious one here is his speed and how fast he is. 2 stolen bases already, and he has lightning speed on those base paths. So it's going to be really hard for opposing catchers to throw him out, which will serve the Red Sox super well going forward because you do need that speed on the bases. So even if he's not starting in the field that day, he can be absolutely useful as a pinch runner on any given day because he has that speed that is rare for a major league player. And even looking at players like Tim LeCastro, this is a good example of somebody who hasn't gotten a ton of playing time at the major league level with the various teams that he's been on. But with every team that he's been on, he has been able to make an impact on the base paths and help score runs in crucial situations when maybe a team is looking for an insurance run or a go-ahead run late in the game. You want somebody like that to be able to step in and run the bases effectively so that you can get that run home. And I feel that David Hamilton, with more time and more experience, is really going to be one of those crucial pinch runners for the team when they are in need of that situation, because they do have some players on this Red Sox offense that aren't the best base runners. And I've also been impressed with his judgment on the base paths. David Hamilton has the capability to know when he should take an extra base and when he shouldn't. In Friday night's game against the White Sox, the ball kind of ricocheted off Tim Anderson's glove at second base. And most players would kind of run to third on that and stay there because he was trying to steal a base at the time in the situation. He was trying to steal second. And he did effectively, of course. And during the throw, the ball kind of bounced off of Anderson's glove and went into the outfield. So Hamilton just took off and went to third. But on the majority of times, most players would just stay there at third. But he was aggressive and he took home and he scored effectively. So that to me is great because I like the aggressiveness from him and his ability to read where the baseball is at, because the Red Sox have made some pretty bad base running mistakes this season and it's cost them quite a few runs. So for him to be able to have that judgment this young when he has barely started so far at the major league level is super promising for his development from an offensive standpoint and just his ability to read throws to know if he should be taking the next base or not. And between his speed and his judgment on the base paths, that already is going to put him in place to succeed here. And I believe that he's only going to continue to get better from that standpoint. And his defense also has been good. He's made some really nice plays since starting at shortstop in these last couple series for the team. And I've noticed confidence from a defensive standpoint from him. He doesn't lose his composure. He doesn't panic when the ball is hit hard to him. He fields the ball, throws it to first base or second base, and it just keeps his composure. And that's what you need for a shortstop, and that's what you want for a shortstop. And he can play second base as well. So now that we've seen him play in the infield, with how shaky the situation is with the Red Sox infield right now, this is absolutely huge. Like I touched upon last week, we've seen a lot of changes within the Red Sox infield this season, primarily due to injuries and a lot of people being shuffled around. So there's quite a bit of infield depth right now, especially at the minor league level, but also currently on the roster. And if he continues to play well defensively, he can make a case for why he should be playing in games more. And then maybe you start to see people like Arroyo lose some playing time if he's continuing to play the way that he is, or you're subbing Kike out more often. This kid definitely is building a little mini case right now for why he should continue to start. And yes, I understand it's a small sample size, so you might say, well, it's hard to draw those conclusions right now, which is completely true and fair. I do believe, yes, it's still too early to know for sure that this is going to continue, but I am saying if he does continue like this, he could make a serious case for an infielder for the future. And right now, the priority for the Red Sox is building for the future and developing young talent that you can maintain and continue to develop. So if he continues to trend in this direction and is put in defensive situations where it's on him to make a good play, and he continues to execute that well, he can really continue to draw me in more and buy into the whole idea of him being somebody in the future that this team can rely on. And offensively, he's already recorded a hit and a walk and 2 runs for the Red Sox. So that to me shows that he can, learn that plate discipline over time. He has taken his fair amount of swings and misses, but that to me is something that is just a time thing and an experience thing. And over time, he'll be able to develop that. I mean, you don't just get to be as good of a hitter as Justin Turner overnight and disciplined at the plate. So that to me is just because he has to learn really his plate discipline, when to be aggressive at the plate and when not to be. So the fact that he's already made things happen on the offensive side of the ball since being here is something to be excited about too. So that's what I really mean when I circle back to the top of the segment when I said that he's diverse. He's made an impact in every part of the game so far in the games that he's played in, and it's really cool every time they show his family in the stands and they're so excited for him and so happy for him because he's really fun to watch so far. And offensively, those numbers will increase and he'll, find his swing and find his value that way. But the defense being as solid as it has been from him so far is key, because we have seen defensive struggles, especially in that middle infield with this team this season. And it's cost the Red Sox a lot of games. So if you can get a fresh face in there like Hamilton, who can shake things up a little bit and continue to do so, that could be really healthy for this team. And I'm really excited about him and to see where he goes from here and just watch the rest of his development, because I think I'm going to be happy with how he progresses. And I feel that you will too. One question, a fan question of the day: who would win in a foot race, Duran or Hamilton? I'm not talking a base running competition. I'm talking just a straight foot race, one end of the stadium to the other. Who wins? Who gets to the outfield wall first, like straight dead center first? Comment on this video on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or another podcast platform, reach out to me on Twitter at Gabby Hurlbutt 10 or at LO_Red Sox and let me know who you believe would win. And I will read some of those replies on the show tomorrow. So if you want to respond to that, definitely go to LO_Red Sox on Twitter or at Gabby Hurlbutt 10 on Twitter, and let me know if you would pick Jarren Duran over David Hamilton in a straight foot race, or reply to this video on YouTube and your response could be read on tomorrow's show, because I'm excited to see these responses and see who agrees with me and on my thoughts. And I will share my thoughts tomorrow as well when I read the responses on who I feel would win that race, because those are 2 speedy youngsters on this team. So I'm curious about your thoughts. Coming up, I'm going to talk about the Red Sox offense, because they are back to being frustrating after a few games of exciting offense, scoring a lot of runs again. They are back in a slump. So I'm going to touch on all of that next. Just a reminder, though, to definitely follow Locked On Red Sox anywhere you listen to podcasts, whether that's here on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Play, you name it. Whatever you listen to your podcasts on, search Locked On Red Sox and hit that follow button, download the episodes, listen to the episodes, leave a review for me or leave a rating too, because I love the interaction and I love hearing from the fans. So definitely follow the show. Tell your friends, tell your family members, anybody who's a big Red Sox fan. I'm here Monday through Friday, bringing you the latest Red Sox content and letting out frustrations on a day like today where we watched a weekend series this past weekend that was incredibly frustrating, or celebrating happy times with you. I want to take this ride with you. I want you to take it with me. So follow Locked On Red Sox on any podcast platform. Follow me, Gabby, on social media as well. I am at Gabby Hurlbut 10 on Twitter. I am always active during games, before games, after games, exchanging thoughts with followers about what's going on with this team on a day-to-day basis. And I also am on Instagram at Gabby_Hurlbut10. I like to post polls on Instagram a lot to start some debates about sports-related content, primarily the Red Sox. So if you are interested in that, definitely check out my Instagram account as well. I'm available. I'm available for you. I'm available to talk Red Sox with you. That's why I do this. And I love hearing other people's thoughts on the team, and I love just hearing from you. So definitely check it out. Follow. I will be there. I will be just as, reactionary as you are. I promise you, if you're feeling frustration, as am I. And I am feeling frustration at this current moment about the Red Sox offense, because let me tell you, this past weekend series against the White Sox was yet another frustrating series where we saw the bats be radio silent. And Friday night's game, there were good vibes because of Bello's start, which I talked about. But the bats still didn't really do much. Rafael Devers finally broke out of a slump with a huge home run in that game, scoring 2 of the Red Sox 3 runs. But they really didn't do a lot offensively. They struck out 17 times in that game and had 4 hits and managed to win thanks to Bello primarily. But they still offensively didn't look that great. And Saturday and Sunday's games, same thing. It's the leaving runners on base and just squandering opportunities that you have and squandering momentum. I mean, they've been averaging 2.4 runs per game over their last 5 games after averaging 8.8 per game the previous 5 before that. That, to me, alone shows the inconsistency that we've seen from this offense all season long so far. It's just been a Jekyll and Hyde up and down offense. One night they score 9 runs, the next night they score 2. And for an offense that is built the way that it is, where you don't have a ton of power hitters, but you do have guys who can make contact and make things happen on the bases, this is just incredibly frustrating. And we've seen them work pitch counts. We've seen them be disciplined at the plate, and we've seen them put up a ton of runs. And we've seen just times where they've had 1 inning where they've just exploded and scored 4 or 5 runs. But then there's games like Sunday's game where they're scuffling, they have opportunities, they have runners on base and they can't score, whether it's they have 2 base runners on or they have the bases loaded, and then they just can't execute and bring a runner in. And I know Verdugo was missing for the series, and, thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family for the loss of his grandmother, and I'm keeping them in my thoughts. But that's not an excuse for the offense. You can't say that because you're missing somebody who's been a key offensive player that you can just use that as an excuse when the offense doesn't perform well. These are professional baseball players who get paid a lot of money to be able to hit the baseball in timely situations. So they should be able to do that no matter who's in the lineup, especially when they have players like Devers, Yoshida, Justin Turner in the lineup who have proven to be able to hit in situations like that. So it really, really frustrates me when they show up with no bats and they can't support their pitchers. And granted, Cutter Crawford, it wasn't the best start for him, but it wasn't the worst either. He only gave up 5 hits. He just got absolutely killed by the long ball. I mean, Louis Robert hit 2 home runs in the game. Andrew Benintendi had a fantastic series. He had at least 2 hits in every game in the series. So that was another struggle for the Red Sox overall. But you can't just every other day not have offense, because until the Red Sox can figure that out, they will be a 500 baseball team. They can't get away with just being inconsistent like that offensively and expect to be a serious contender. And I've said multiple times throughout this season that I believe that the Red Sox roster, talent-wise, right now is capable of being a wild card team. And they have shown that they can be, and they've shown glimpses of that, and they've been able to beat some good teams. Then they go and they lose to teams they should be able to beat. And the White Sox are a prime example of one of those teams. They should have been able to win the series. Saturday's loss was very, very frustrating. And, Paxton obviously had to leave the game early due to a knee injury. It sounds like it's not going to be that serious, and he should be able to make his next start, which is fantastic. But Winkowski comes in, kind of falls apart, and then Casas made that crucial error in the 9th inning that ultimately ended up costing the Red Sox the game. So it's just little things like that too, but you have to be able to hit, and you have to be able to drive in runners in scoring position. I mean, one player who has been struggling since coming off the injured list is Adam Duvall. He had 2 doubles today and 1 RBI, so maybe this is him breaking out of his slump and being able to get back on track from a hitting standpoint. But prior to those 2 hits, he was 0 for 8 in the series up until then. And then the offense, I mean, in general, was 3 for 18 in the series with runners in scoring position. That is unbelievably bad and unacceptable and cannot happen if you want to win games. It just cannot happen. And I understand that there's going to be off days. They play a lot of baseball games, so you can't expect the offense to be on point every game. But this is seriously concerning, the drop off between what they were in their previous 5 games prior to this past 5 and the difference in how many runs were scored in those games by the Red Sox offense. And it's mind-blowing to me that they can look like the best offense in baseball one game and then the next day look like one of the worst offenses in baseball. And you wonder when the hitting coach should be held accountable for that, because it seems like Fatsy has not been doing a whole lot to fix really people's plate approaches. And there could be, things going on behind the scenes that I'm unaware of. But from an outsider's perspective, as a fan who watches all the games, I'm not really sure I'm seeing action being taken in terms of making adjustments. So there needs to be some serious evaluation there, and this offense needs to just be able to come through in those types of situations and get that big hit when they need to, because not a lot of players in this offense right now have been able to really get that big hit when they have runners on base to drive runs in. And that to me is tough. It's a really, really tough situation to be in, because we know that they're capable of doing it. I really, truly know they're capable of doing it, but they need to figure it out. And until they do that, I don't have many expectations for them besides hovering around that 500 mark. And it is amazing to me that they're only 3 games out of a wild card spot still, which is great, but they can't gain ground with the other teams above them if they continue to be like this. I mean, Friday night was a good win because multiple teams above them lost that day. The Angels lost, the Yankees lost, the Blue Jays lost. So that was a great opportunity for them to gain a game on teams ahead of them in those wild card standings, but then they go and lose it again by losing 2 games against the White Sox. So you need to be able to be consistent and hit, especially against teams like Chicago. This was a series overall that I would like to forget about, and they need to move on, go back home and beat the Marlins and have a good series against them, because the inconsistencies are really, really starting to get to me here. It really is frustrating. So let's hope they can figure it out offensively, because I know that they're capable of doing it, and they should be able to live up to that capability. Appreciate everybody tuning in to Locked On Red Sox as always. Again, don't forget to follow the show on social media. Let me know the answer to that question about who would win in a foot race, Duran or Hamilton. I will be reading a few of those responses on the show tomorrow, Tuesday. So definitely let me know your thoughts on that. And also, our debate of the week segment will be dropping on tomorrow's episode. The debate of the week for this week will be which of the 4 Red Sox World Series teams in the 2000s was the best Red Sox team to watch. I will be sharing thoughts on all 4 of those teams, what I liked about each one, and giving my input as to which one was the best one to watch and why. So that's what you can look forward to on tomorrow's show. Everybody have a great week, and I will catch you all on the next show.